What's going on, guys? Car Guy V8 here with another video, and I'm super excited about this one because if things go as planned, we're going to get the Cutlass running off of its own fuel system and moving around the yard. So basically in this video, I'm going to be finishing up doing the rear brakes, and I'm going to put an entire fuel system in the car and then see if we can't adjust the floats on the Holly and get every little thing squared away in the engine bay, and hopefully she'll be moving around the yard under her own power. But let's start with those rear brakes and get that out of the way, then on to the fun stuff. We're going to go ahead and knock out these rear brakes on the Cutlass real quick, and I'm not going to be able to fully bleed the system in this video, but I'll be able to self-bleed it enough to get it around the yard without any dangers of the car rolling away from me. While doing the wheel cylinders in the rear of this car, I learned how much I hate the clip-in wheel cylinder system that the G-bodies have. This is the first time I've seen that system, and it is not very much fun to deal with, I'll tell you that much. So here we've got the new tank. I went ahead and put in the sending unit, and I came over. I was going to clean the old fuel line out. You know, it's only 10 years since it ran or so. I wasn't getting anything at the back of the car. Unfortunately, looks like we might have a leak up here. That's all brake fluid or brake cleaner I was spraying up in there. I usually do that and then spray some air through it, you know, just in case there's any junk or anything in the fuel lines, but not today, unfortunately. Looks like I may have to do fuel line from the front to the back of the car. Finding that rotten fuel line basically stopped me in my tracks on the fuel system, but a few days have passed and a new part came in. This part just came in right here. This is a fuel hard line for a Malibu, an early A-body Monte Carlo, you know, before they were officially titled G-bodies. So it doesn't say it'll fit the Cutlass, but I can promise you it is going to fit the Cutlass once I'm done with it. So the first few bins I looked at look like they're going to fit perfectly up front in the car, and then going back, since I'm using an electric fuel pump, I was going to have to do some stuff with the factory fuel line anyway, so this won't be an issue. So this should work just fine. So out of all of the easy things to do on a G-body, replacing the fuel line is apparently not one of them. So the final bolt I need to get is right here. This basically holds one of the little clips that holds the fuel line against the frame. There's like 6 or 7 of these suckers. I've removed the others, and most of them are pretty easy. But this one right here, I mean, look, I have to go up. Let's see if I can even find it on the camera. It's hard enough to find without the camera in my face, but basically it's right up in there. Sorry, I was moving the camera. So yeah, I'm half tempted to just cut the fuel line there, but I really don't want to do a hack job. This is the kind of fun I'm having right now. It's so hard to get this one and see where it's at the same time. Oh. Come on. There we go. Starting to come. Whew. Somehow, I'm not kidding, that took about 15 minutes of wrenching because you could only go like, you know, 1/8 of a turn at a time. That was fun. So all the old fuel line is out, and I've cut down what I need. So basically, fuel line's made to be replaced whenever the body is off of the frame. But since I'm running an electric fuel pump, I'd have to be cutting some of it anyway. So I've got the sections that I need where rubber hose will go and all. And if you are wondering, this Summit part number, which I'll put right here, this will fit the Cutlasses. It's pretty much exact. I figured it would. It's advertised to only fit Monte Carlos and Malibus from like 78 to, I guess, 81 on the Montes and 83 on the Malibu. Those are the only things it says it'll fit, but I figured being a G-body or A-body, it'd pretty much be the same. And I was right. All the bends and stuff look to be just about perfect. And you can see the old line. It's pretty rough. There's several spots that it's like that. I should have paid closer attention to this line. I just figured, you know, I'd clean it out real good and it'd be good, but I was completely wrong. All right, we got the new fuel line in here. Now I'm thinking about mounting the fuel pump like right here. Now this is a Edelbrock pusher pump. I've used this one before on several different builds. I've learned they work pretty well if mounted below the tank. If you mount it mid-level or higher, it will probably fail. Feel like it may fall here in a second. So after several hours of work, hope y'all heard that. I'm not going to leave it on for very long because there's no fuel in the tank yet. But everything's working. Fuel line's plumbed all the way back there, all the way up to the brand new tank I put in. So the only thing left to do is throw a fuel line up to the carburetor and put some fuel in the tank, and we should have fuel. And of course, set the floats on the Holly. So here's the final piece of the puzzle for the accessory drive, at least to get it running where it'll sustain itself. And funny enough, I went looking for the spacer, and I know I've got some somewhere, and I ran across this 68 C10 alternator, which is basically identical. So that's funny. I probably could have just used this one, but I bought this one before seeing it, and so I'm going to go ahead and use this one. Always good to have a backup anyway. Looks like, unfortunately, my harness that might actually work. I was afraid I might have made it just a little too short back whenever I did this harness a couple months ago. I redid all the wiring on this side of the engine, at least all the important stuff that I'll be using. So I think it might actually fit. So that's really good news. I was a little worried at first whenever I started mocking everything up. I need to get a good boot right here, because I definitely don't want this touching anything that's aground. But it'll be okay, at least to get it running today. it actually does fit. That's good. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cut this wire and redo it. I don't like the way I did that. I made it just a little long. It doesn't have a boot on it, and also I started doing a little something different when wiring to make things look a little prettier, so I'm gonna redo that. So I finished shortening up the wire and cleaning it up a little bit, and you are gonna love this. I actually used an old spark plug wire and cut it off and used the boot to protect the positive post right here. It's not beautiful, but it's functional and works, so that'll be good enough for me. Much better than it was. I'm about to put fuel into this carburetor for the first time, so I've got the seats set a little bit low, hopefully, so the fuel won't just spew out, and I'm gonna make sure that the needle isn't stuck as well. So let's see. Oh, a little too high on the front one. That one, the back one looks, yeah, I think the back one's just about perfect. You rock the car and it starts to come out. So back is good. I'm gonna tighten the front one, or excuse me, I'm going to lower the front one just a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and put this still, I'm going to lower that a tiny bit more. Let's try that right there. So there we go. Then you shake the car, comes out both. I think that should be just about perfect. So I'm going to put those side plugs back in, and I'm going to call it good. Nothing's leaking out there, so perfect. I don't see anything leaking. Oh, actually it is leaking there. I'm going to have to tighten that up. I think it's finally time to see if she'll run on her own now that she's got a working fuel system. There are a couple spots I got to keep an eye on, like right there. There's a little leak right around where the accelerator pump is. You know, I torqued everything to Holley spec, but as most of you know, Holley's, they have a few leak-prone spots you got to keep an eye on, like there, and also the fuel inlets. I've got a little one right there. No matter how much I tighten it, it will not stop slightly leaking. So even though this sucker was brand new, I may have to at least pull it off. Maybe it's the actual nut at the bowl that's bad, but we'll see. It'll run right now. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. So let's see. Accelerator pump is good. I'm going to give it a little bit of fuel so I can run up there. Let's see. She runs. I figured it's going to start doing that. Hey, at least we know. It's kind of ugly looking. This engine hasn't run in a good while. Whew. Happy she runs. She started to smooth out a little towards the end, you know, cold-natured, of course. I'm going to pull this carb back off, see about fixing that little leak right there. You see, that is unacceptable. All right, so it's time to see if she'll move under her own power. And I'm really excited for this. I have put it in gear and the transmission does work, but we're gonna see if we can't move it out into the yard now and walk around it while it's running. And I put some new mufflers underneath because the other ones, they were those little 12-inch glass packs, and they're loud. They're about the loudest muffler you can put on anything, and they are very loud, and I didn't quite want that for this car. So it's got a 26-inch glass pack under it now, and it sounds phenomenal. So I'm about to start that up and let y'all hear it. I tried to fix the Holley fuel leak, but after reading some reviews on the Mr. Gasket, you know, fuel inlet, dual fuel inlet for Holleys, they have very poor reviews. They're known for leaking because of burrs. And I took it off and I cleaned all the burrs off and I put it back on, and it actually leaks worse than it did before. So I'm gonna have to I'm just gonna get a better dual inlet setup for this carburetor because I can't have a fuel leak. That's very dangerous. And the brakes, I bled them a little bit myself, but I don't have a self bleeder, so I just tried to get enough pedal feel that I can stop if I have to when moving around the yard. But all right, I'm gonna set up the camera behind it and we're gonna see if this thing won't fire up and move out of the garage. That's the tick you hear. I'm really happy with the way this video turned out. The car is running and moving under its own power, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. And so now it's going to sit here for a couple weeks while I get to some projects that have been put off since the garage has been full. So guys, thank y'all for watching this video.